Hey everybody, I wanted to give a little quick update on the Roadster for Wild West Con. This is the top of the back end, you know, the boat tail end. This is where the gas cap is for the actual gas tank. And then this right here is the hole that the Gatling guns go through as they go into their base. And so I had this cool piece of brass canister, whatever it originally was. Somebody had done up a little nozzle on it, and I got that while I was over at the Dutch European Steampunk Convention over there in the Netherlands, and wanted to incorporate something cool from them since it's a great group of folks and a great event, and plus it's a really cool piece. And as I couldn't set it down on top of the gas cap, because obviously, you know, that makes a problem, so I had to make it as accessible. Couldn't put it too far back because then it's in the way of the pole that holds the Gatling guns. And so I had you can see what was the guts left over from a lamp you know, a ceiling lamp for your living room. So I took it apart and I took these legs and I drilled the right size holes, put them in. And then I used epoxy, JB Weld epoxy to do all that. And then I attached them to the base, so this is good. And nice and sturdy. What I'm doing now is adding in these screws. So I drilled a hole that's just a hair smaller than my screws, or bolts here. And then I'm drilling them in so the brass is soft enough that if you're patient and careful, you can slowly work the bolt in, and it makes a thread. What I'm going to do then is I'm going to come back and I'm going to clip these ends off, and then there's going to be rubber hoses that I get from Home Depot in the gardening section. The rubber hoses will come down to screws that will be coming up this way. So the hose is the right diameter to go over top of here, comes down, and it'll look like this is some sort of, you know, nitrous tank or something like that. And with all of the feeds coming down. And then we'll leave it to people's imagination of what it is from there on. So I just wanted to give a little update, show how cool I thought that was. Coming over here to the Roadster itself, I did add in a buggy horn. This is a really dried out one, so in order to use it, you have to cover. But I've ordered another rubber ball for that. Another thing that I'm pretty stoked about is this little piece here. I had a piece that was, you know, actually this piece right here was screwed in, and it looked okay, but it just didn't look functional, and it just was out of place. So I had this from a flea market. It's a corner piece for, I think, a boat, some sort of boat lantern. Either way, it was copper and it had this cool red globe, and eventually I'll run an LED in there to make that glow. I took a fire poker and bent the ends, bent it at a 90-degree angle so it runs all the way through. And then on this side, I just temporarily put this. I'm going to put something else on it. And then I put the springs so that you can, oops, when it's mounted, you can move the lever back and forth, and the springs kind of put it back in spot. So I'm pretty stoked about that. Also added a brass doorknob in place of the choke, which I think is pretty cool. And another one here. And basically I did this, you know, these have a bolt that screws up into them. I just drilled into this steel bar here. You know, I drilled down in, and then epoxied the bolt that's going through this into it. So that is that. And then the next thing on the agenda for today is I'm going to take these two bicycle sprockets, and they're going to sandwich with some spacers the two sides of this sprocket, so that when this chain goes down onto this one, it can't come off. I know that there's a better engineering solution for it, but that would get me so it's drivable, and then I will at least be able to drive this at the Wild West Con. So the tank returns, some new modifications, my super high-speed brake, and it'll be finally drivable after about 6 years. Alrighty, talk to y'all later. So this underside of that lid, I could have put washers, but I don't think I'm gonna really need them. But I drilled holes and I screwed the bolts up through. Now, if you flip this back over, now you see that they're sticking up, and the hoses I'll just put them over, and I offset them. They're off a little bit so they're not directly, straight down shot, because then the cables just kind of come down and they don't have a whole lot of, I don't know, it just doesn't look as aesthetically good. So by offsetting them, I'll be able to kind of twist the cable and have it kind of come like a flat S. And then the three, if I can make the three stay together, that'll look pretty slick. And then I'll do the three on this side. So the hose I'm using is this stuff called Mr. Landscaper. And it's just rubber hosing that I assume you use in landscaping. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of sandpaper and I'm going to sand over this so I get rid of this text for one, and then just give it a matte look. I cut them at a length that you'll see here in a sec that are, it's not the distance from here to here, it's the distance from here to here plus some, so that I can get that kind of curve in it. And yeah, we'll see how that goes. So here's the hose when it's done. Maybe it's difficult to see on here, but I'm not sanding it all perfect. I'm wanting the things to look distressed. So here I've put 3 of them on, and you can see by that extra length that they give a neat curve. And then when you look at it here, it doesn't look so nice, right? So I got these from Home Depot. They're little decorative screw caps or something, I don't know, but when you put that in before you put the hose on, I just think it makes a huge difference, and it makes it look more like believable, like it is actually something. And I'm probably going to go back and put some on here. Eventually I'm going to try to find out if they make any in copper, because that would be too cool. So, and there you have it. As you can see, I added them on here, and I just think it really finishes off the connection of the two pieces, the contrast of metal and rubber and colors, and it just really stands out nice. And you can also see I just twisted the wires so that they kind of line up, and I'll probably fiddle with it a little bit more, but so that they have that kind of curve and bend to them. I just think it looks, at least for my taste, aesthetically better. So last thing is going to be if I can get the thing off as a really old brass gauge to go up on top. That probably will have to be JB welded, because I can't get in. Normally I wouldn't put these in and then clip the ends. I would come from the inside out, but there really just wasn't any good way to do that. Even though this screws off, it's still not enough room to work, and so that's why I went with a slightly smaller, and then patience of screwing the bolt in. And it it's a good sturdy way, it works. And then eventually what I'm probably going to do on here, or maybe on the opposite side, because the driver's head is here, I'm going to do like an old-time font and some filigree, and then engrave some old-timey wording for nitrous oxide or something along those lines. So anybody has any good ideas of what you would call in the Victorian era nitrous oxide tank other than suicidal, let me know.